Hello, hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Build with Glide, where we go behind the scenes on existing apps and build new apps from scratch. So good to have you all here with us. I just want to give a quick shout out to Manan Mehta from Modernizing Processes for joining us today. Manan is one of the most prolific Glide experts that we have in the community. And he's currently on a trip around Europe building Glide apps for others. That's 12 apps in 12 cities in 12 weeks.
Hopefully,
Now, hopefully. Now, before we get into it, just a quick reminder, if you haven't joined us on this series before, this isn't a webinar. We do have slides, but it's not like a big thing like that. It's a conversation. We have a list of items that we're going to cover, things we're going to talk about. But at any time, you can jump in to the chat with your questions, and we'll pull those in. And because I forgot to introduce myself, hi, I'm Andy. I look after community here at Glide. So Manan, as I pull up our slides, how is it going so far? How are you doing today? Where are you connecting from? You've been on
things are wonderful. I'm actually in Madrid today, in Spain. Halfway across my trip already, but things are really good. I'm enjoying it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. So why don't we start off with before we get into this epic trip that you're on? Let's start off. Just tell us a little bit about Modernizing Processes. What's the deal with Modernizing Processes? Your company.
For sure. So, firstly, thank you so much for putting this together. It's one of the milestone moments for me because I've been working with Glide for more than 3 years now, with my team as well. And in the last 3 years, it's always been something that I'm looking forward to, where I'll probably speak to Glide one day and give a presentation. So, one thing off my checklist. So, thanks for that. And Andy, the work that you guys are doing with the community and stuff, wonderful. So, kudos for that. I'll quickly dive into what we do. So basically, I'm Manan Mehta. I'm on a mission to empower CXOs to save their time by modernizing their processes. Basically, what we do is we understand their internal operations and modernize those using technology. So far, we've partnered with 85 plus global businesses across various different industries and saved 1,000 plus hours of time for all our clients. Our vision at Modernizing Processes is to change the way CXOs think about technology altogether. This involves understanding their needs and building their processes as their tech partners. We do this with the power of no-code using platforms such as Glide itself. It's been a journey of 3 years, and it started as me as a solopreneur, and now we have a team of like 15 plus. So it's been a great journey so far.
That's awesome. So what's the focus? What type of customers are you working with?
So, firstly, the most primary focus that I would like to talk about is time. We are working on saving time, okay? And no code makes the most sense on saving of time. Now, as an entrepreneur or a CXO, time is one of their most important assets. So, basically, what we try to do is we try to empower people with giving back their time so that they don't waste time in work which is not really relevant and something that can be automated using a machine. Like anything that a computer can do, why should a human do? And a human should definitely focus more on like deep work, creative stuff, which is perfect for them, and play around with that. So let me dive a little deeper into like a specific example. For example, let's talk about one of our clients. Jay was one of our clients from Everyday Bowl. He runs a healthy meal subscription company in Mumbai. Now, every single day, what he would do was wake up in the morning and decide what exactly his customers are going to eat. Now, this he would do using like an Excel sheet, and he himself would have to wake up and do these things. Till the time he didn't do this, nobody would get, like, the chefs would not know what to eat, what to prepare. The delivery boys would not know what to deliver. So only if Jay spent his time on deep work in the morning, only then his company would run. Now what we did was we identified that this could be completely productized put into like a process. We identified that process, and automated the whole system, and eventually saved at least 2 to 3 hours per day for him. Now,
Wow.
when we end up saving such a big amount of time for him, what happens is he gets so much time to grow his business, do all the things that a business developer should do, and eventually his business grew two and a half times. So while he was doing like 40 to 50 meals a day, now he can do 100, 120 a day. So that's something that, like, understanding the problems of the business owner, creating a process around it, and then using no code to make things faster, because not everything in the world needs to be done with code. You have these tools and weapons to make things work. Why not do it that way? Yeah. Yeah, these are some of my clients. Basically, as I said, we work as tech partners. So whenever I get a chance, I try to meet the clients in person. Yeah. So
Got it. So we have a few, and thank you for putting this together for us. So here we have a few of your clients,
yes,
and meeting in person, having that one-to-one connection is clearly a big value for you.
absolutely.
So this is like a compilation of some of the some of the photos of the folks you've worked with and
Correct.
met,
That's my
and then
team.
we get here to
Yeah.
your team. So is this the whole Modernizing Processes team here?
It's, I would say 90%. We have a couple of people who are remote, so they weren't able to join us here. But yes, 90% of the team is here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the bigger Glide Apps teams that I've seen. So
It's
kudos on
actually
you
like
for
we are into overall modernizing processes. So a
yeah.
strong part of the team is doing a lot of content production,
Mhm.
working with me on these things. So yeah, there are a lot of behind the scenes where it's going. But I would give a special shout out to every member in this picture, because they are really special for this company.
That's fantastic. Just out of curiosity, so when it comes to Glide and the work that you're doing,
Yeah.
what was it that made you settle on Glide? Like, how did you find out about Glide in the first place?
Great question. So I would like, you should thank your SEO, like whoever is handling your SEO, because one fine day I started as a warehouse manager. So I was working at a warehouse where I was trying to automate certain things internally, and I was using a lot of Google Sheets.
Mhm.
Now, as a warehouse manager, using Google Sheets was fine, but as soon as my blue collar workers need to use those same sheets, it becomes really difficult. So one fine day I was just googling, finding like how to make my Google Sheets look better or stuff like, I don't remember what exactly was it, but I was searching for something, and I saw Glide Apps. This is probably 3 years, three and a half or 4 years back, maybe I don't exactly remember, but 2019 I would say. And back then, this came up, and I was like, convert your Google Sheets into an app. And this really intrigued me, because I personally am a mechanical engineer. I'm not a developer at all. So I went here, I tried to put a front end on top of Google Sheets. Back then, Glide was that itself, and it worked like magic for me. So I was like, wow, this is something fun, something powerful. Back then, there was no intention of really using Glide as the way I'm using it today,
Mhm.
but just finding this out and playing around made me an addict, I would say. So I started with, you know modernizing internal processes back then for
Mhm.
probably a year or so, and then I would build all kinds of apps for my personal life, for my parents, for my friends, for anything and everything, for probably like birthdays, surprises, etc. So yeah, it was fun.
So going from the career that you had before and then going into software development, starting an agency, doing that, that's a very different journey. And it seems like, so we have a situation like this where there's an existing process,
Mhm.
and like that is the core of what you do, right? Like you're going in, what is the process, breaking it down, and how do we take that process
Yep.
and make it digital?
I will dive deeper into that if you want.
Please.
This is something that we have identified after a lot of tries. Like, in the beginning, there was no process. It was always impromptu, trying to understand stuff. But every time we work with a client, we optimize our process as well. We try to understand what we can improve. And now we have come up with like a 5-step system, which works really well. You probably might you can scroll through and you'll find it. But basically, what we begin with is, it's something called as the project architecture. So over here, the most important thing to do is understand the client's the problem of the client. Like what exactly are they trying to automate?
Mhm.
Now, till the time you don't really identify the exact problem, because clients come up with really vague requirements most of the times. I mean, it's important for us to sit with them, understand, explain what can be automated and not. So, first step is always create like a project architecture, put all their ideas onto paper into tech language is what I would call it. The second step is basically, like presenting a solution, which is like we have now identified that these are the problems. These problems can be automated using technology. So how? What tech? What do you use? No code? Do you use code? Do you use integrations? How would a customer journey look like? Where would they start? Where would they go? So we do a lot of like manual brainstorming, like paperwork, but put together like a complete journey with sticky notes and stuff, as you can see, and present a solution to them so that they get satisfied. Okay, this is how you're going to solve my problem. As soon as this is done and we get an approval, this also becomes like a very strong scope is basically like the length of the project, what exactly are we doing. So we are really focused, us and the client both, and now everybody knows what exactly to do. From here it's development. So as soon as we move to the next step, which is basically development, here what happens is our team, like internally we have like a very strong team of glide experts, I would say. We have like 4 glide certified experts in the company. But what we have done is each glide certified expert specializes in something. So one of them is a specialist at UI, one of them is a specialist at integrations, another is a specialist at Google Sheets. So we break down the project into parts where the right parts go to the right people, and they start independently developing their stuff on their own. Of course, this whole management is also done through a Glide app, which we have made internally. So our project management app is also on Glide. So we share the work through that app. We track everybody's performance based on that. As soon as the development is done, it moves to a next process, which is extremely important in my opinion, which is the quality assurance. So this is where a team of testers comes in, understands the project architecture in one place, understands the developed item in the other place, puts it together and compares. So when they compare these two, they realize what's working, what's not working, what's as per the client's expectation or not. Basically, just making sure everything, like thinking of scenarios which the developer would not have thought of. So they try to play around with that, and then as soon as this is done, if QA is passed, it means the problem is solved. Because the problem is solved, we move to the scalability roadmap, because we always know tech is lots of iterations, lots of improvements, continuous development. So we always present what are the next steps the client can do, how they can leverage technology even more. Because in our experience, we have seen when you start building something for them, they automatically start getting addicted to it. They're like, oh, if I can do this, I can do that as well, and I can do that as well. So we start with one process and then we keep building multiple processes.
One thing I really like about the approach that you have here is that my background's in doing web agency work, so website design and development, and the process you've mapped out here for doing software development, building apps and solutions is very similar, where it all goes back to those needs. What are the things that the client needs to get done? Or if you're building a Glide app internally, what are the things that we're trying to solve for? Figure that out first. You can do it with pen and paper. I love your sticky note approach. Just put things on the wall. We don't need to go digital at the beginning. Put it on the wall, start with that, and then move on to scoping out what the actual build is going to be.
Yep.
I really like that approach. Now, next on the slide here, we have a couple examples of the apps that you've built. Want me to jump over to those?
Yeah, let's go. So
all right,
I would just like walk through certain things that we can build. Basically, you build things which are like beyond an MVP. So sometimes like founders come up with random ideas which they want to test in the market, but they don't want to spend a lot of money in coding, in spend a lot of time also in development. So we end up understanding the fastest way to iterate and reach to market, build like a demo, so that their users give them feedback. As soon as they get feedback, they know if it's working or not. So this is an app which we have made for a parent nanny ecosystem, which was a hit or miss. Maybe it would work, maybe it would not. But just making the MVP, we saved. If they would have done it with custom code, they would have taken 6 months. We made it in 2 months. Until date, over like 3 years, they are still using this app. they're still using the Glide app that we made. They have onboarded around 1400 plus users, and it's scaling. Other than that, we can work with internal operations. So I would just dive deeper into certain use cases such as like field operations. So for example, there's a sales team or there's a technician team on the outside who is trying to capture information and send it to the head office. Now previously this was done through paper, or people would use WhatsApp. This use case doesn't need to be done in that way because it takes so much time to consolidate all that data together. And imagine 100 odd people in the field doing the same. So replacing all of that with an app and making it simple makes the world easy. Now that's another use case. Then something which is like streamlining application tracking, basically where you are trying to apply, like there are students applying, there are founders applying for investment. All those things have very custom processes, right? When an application comes in, there are so many steps involved for them to get qualified. Now there is no software in the world which does that like automatically, the way you have your steps aligned. This can be easily built with Glide. Like we know what happens at each step. You use a custom action to send a message at when they get qualified. Like possibilities are endless. Something like project management perfected, for example, where there are multiple stakeholders involved. For example, real estate. Now this is something that we are looking for, real estate. Now there are various different stakeholders in the real estate property. For example, the builder, the architect, the lawyer, the contractors, the buyer themselves. Now for all of them to keep a track of their information in one place, it's impossible. I mean, it takes one person to communicate between these people, and a lot of headache. What if it's all put together in one dashboard, and you have like user-based visibility? This user can see only that user can see only that, and they always know the complete progress. Nobody needs to communicate. Things become so much simpler. And if somebody raises a complaint, the right person automatically knows. If somebody changes the status, the right person knows. Things can become so much more streamlined.
And when we look at those processes and the things that you're building out there, these are all things that we go back to the pen and paper, the putting the sticky notes on the wall. If this condition is met, we do this thing. If that condition is met, we do this other thing. Everything we do in the app side is really a manifestation of that, right? Like it's how do we take this and make it digital?
Frankly speaking, the digital part is the simpler part. The logic part is the difficult part. Understanding how do we solve the problem is the difficult part. Hence, the architecture, makes the life easy.
I love that philosophy. So I'm going to switch over to talk about this project that you're kicking off right now. You're kind of in the middle of it, right? I almost want to call it like a Glide Apps road trip, like this European trip that you're on building apps.
It is like that.
Should we just play the video?
Please go ahead.
Let's start with that. All right.
Yeah, let's start with that.
Bringing you along every step of the way. This is Project Baarah.
Wow. I remember the first time you showed me that. I was blown away. Both in terms of to Darren's comment here. Wow, the polish of that. But also the just the scope of what you're taking on. So we know the processes are really complex. It's really hard to do these sorts of things over a 3-month period. To knock out these processes and build apps around these things that you're taking on like a week at a time. That's crazy. In my mind, it feels a bit
Wildly
crazy.
ambitious. I know a lot of
It's
people have
slightly
told me that.
ambitious. Slightly ambitious.
It
So
is, it
what
is.
is it that inspired you to do this?
Great. So let me just start from telling you why am I doing this. So the main purpose is a lot of business owners did not even know this was possible. People did not know that building something in a week is possible. Everybody would think that it would take months, or like simple things also can be automated fast. Secondly, uh, for us, because we had already figured out this a way to do things using Glide, using no code and stuff, we never really could showcase our work very well. So we were like, we need to do something big. And then this whole thought came together. The idea behind it is like, it takes traditional developers like 3 months to build an app on an average. This is just like a random survey. 3 months on an average. 3 months is 12 weeks. In 12 weeks, if you ask me if I know exactly 12 things that I have to build, I can build 12 apps easily, right? So we thought, let's take this challenge. In 12 weeks, we'll make 12 apps. And just to make it a little more spicier, and also because I have a lot of wanderlust in me, I was like, let's make it even more exciting and do it across 12 different cities. So that's how Project Baarah was born. I took inspiration from one specific documentary which I watched, which is called 14 Peaks. It's about a trekker who tries to do like 14 top peaks in 7 months, which somebody had done in 7 years before. So he's trying to challenge the norm and do something very different. Basically, that was the same intention. Let's do something different. Let's do something difficult. It's not been easy. I'll be honest. It's been really difficult. But yeah, that's the idea behind it.
Well, what I also really appreciated was the fact that this is a team effort. You have a crew. You did a bunch of pre-work. You didn't just decide, you know what, I'm going to go and hit all these cities and just start building. Like, you did a lot of work leading up to this. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What was that like planning for this project?
For sure. So as like the way we use our process for our clients, we also stick to the same for our internal process as well. So basically, if we had to make this project successful, we really needed the strongest people coming together and brainstorming it out. Because now this is an idea in my head, but how would people think about it? How would it really pan out? What is the execution plan? We needed to chart out a lot of things in order to make this work even like 10%. So for that, really had to bring together this team who we spent 3 days fully without phones, without anything. We used a methodology from Google Ventures. It's called Google Ventures Design Sprint. It's really useful. And it has like every day specified. We modified it for our use case. And in fact, the name of the project, the video, the script, all of those things were born out of this 3-day sprint that we did. Just in 3 days, we could achieve a lot of things.
That's incredible. And so you are currently on what week number are you on right now?
I'm currently on week 6.
Okay, so you're exactly halfway through.
Exactly halfway through. But so far we have done projects, like 2 projects, because one thing that we forgot of understanding was building 12 apps is easy. Finding 12 people to make apps for is difficult. So that was a challenge, but once we started working, things have started working better. Like we have a lot more people coming up, but through this process, I met a lot of good people. Like went across wonderful cities, met incredible people, and made 2 really successful projects. So like I made a family out of home from people who I never knew of before.
I love that there's, you go into a project like this with certain expectations about how you hope it'll turn out. You'll do a bunch of work in advance of it, which your team has done. And once you get into it, it's like, oh, almost immediately, like, oh, we didn't think of this. But at the same time, you have this wonderful discovery of connecting with other people, meeting people that you might have only known online, and then now you're getting to see them in person. That has to be a pretty wonderful experience on its own.
Yeah, all in all, like going to a new city every time. None of these cities I've been to before. So going there, settling down, meeting new people. Overall, it's a phenomenal experience. It's a great exposure, and then creating some impact by meeting somebody who really wants to make a difference. So getting to do that, getting like interest also from somebody to go ahead and achieve something like this is incredible. And once I get to showcase the skills that we have, the game is different. Then it becomes more like fantastic. Now we are getting the groove. Then we end up having meals together. I get free tour guides in a way in the city, because as soon as you do
That's a
that,
nice
they're like,
perk.
okay, we'll take you around.
Yeah, that's a nice perk. So why don't we jump over then? Take a look at some of the things that you've built. If you want to
Sure,
screen share,
let's go.
let's jump into it.
Perfect. So I'll talk about the first successful project we worked with, which was called Yacht Notes. Now, Yacht Notes. Okay, I'm going to try it.
And same thing that I was just saying. You prepare for an event, you do all the prep, but when it comes down to the moment, you just throw the switch and hope everything works exactly as you planned.
It's working. It's working.
All
now.
good. It's all good.
And
All right,
you will
I
see
see
me
you.
later
I
again.
see you. All
Great.
righty. Let's well, that's an inception moment right there. Great. If you want to go full screen, and I'll tweak our settings here. There we go. All right. So talk to me about Yacht Notes.
Perfect. So Yacht Notes is basically this was my client's idea. Ruben is the client who has been thinking about this for 2 years now. In Monaco, the yachting industry is really, it's managed like it's such an expensive industry, but everything, all the management is done through WhatsApp, email, stuff like that. It's communicated through that. So the idea over here was basically there's a problem in the industry where like something so expensive is managed using simple things. Now, what my client wanted to put together was an app where all the stakeholders, different stakeholders, get together and have various different features, such as messaging each other, as a calendar service where they can see when is the next yachting charter happening, a map service to see exactly where the charter is going through, see it in a view where you understand on what date, where exactly are you going to be as a guest, a contact book to find out who to get in touch with when something relevant needs to work on, review, etc. So this was the intention of putting all of these things together in one solution. Again, there was another challenge. This particular client was participating in one of the leading competitions in Monaco, which is called the Mark Challenge. The Mark Challenge is a business competition, and he was a semi-finalist when he met me. And he had exactly probably 3 weeks for him to present an app in the final. Now, this was in Monaco. This was during my trip. So this was a perfect project for Project Baarah. Now, here what we did was we met him, understood exactly what he wanted to do, and then most of the things that I mentioned right now could be done on Glide. And in 3 weeks, no other platform in the world would be able to make something like this. So we decided to build the whole MVP on Glide, and we put together something like this. So basically, you can go here and see all the yachts that are available. Check out a yacht, check out the video, check out details about it. This is Glide itself. You can, as an admin, I can go and add a new charter, copy charters. I can see what all ongoing charters are there. I can open those and have various different things inside that, and I can manage things over here. Apart from that, if I go to the home screen, I can always see a schedule, like a map, like a calendar, and understand what's going to happen when, how many guests are coming, etc. I can also see like a quick map of where is my charter going from point A to point B, stuff like that. So we put together a working prototype for Yacht Notes and presented it in the Mark Challenge as the business final presentation. Now, when this was done, so this is in Monaco itself. We took a picture. This is Ruben, who's the one who won the Mark Challenge afterwards. But basically, when we presented this, like this was in front of a luxury jury, luxury brand managers, and a lot of people from Monaco itself. It's known for that. And out of 120 odd people, Ruben became the first one. Like he won the Mark Challenge, and eventually, like because he won, because he had a working demo, he could display exactly what his ideas were in ways where people could understand much better. And all of this was built in like 3 weeks. Like no other participant could even achieve that. And when we put this together, the audience was blown away, the judges were blown away, and it was easy for Ruben to capture his win. And now Ruben is going to the next step, meeting investors, showing his product even more. And from here on, we are going to decide what better features to work deeper on, keep building, keep innovating. And overall, it was like a great experience. Perfect for my project as well.
What a lovely bit of serendipity. That timing so perfect for what you set out to do, and to find someone like this who
Yep.
had that perfect need. And I got to say too, if you want to go back to that app, go back to that dashboard, there's a couple
I
things
will.
here I wanted to call out, because I think what you've done here is a really good example of how you make Glide look great and unique, just using the components that are available to everybody. Your use of
simple
colors.
components. This is nothing out of the box.
Yeah, but it still feels very distinct.
Absolutely.
So,
And that's the power of Glide, I would say. Like the design itself, the way it's built, it looks phenomenal.
and so with the iconography that you have on the side, those different icons, where are those icons from?
These are also from the Glide internal. Like Glide has an icon library. We have used those.
All right. So we have that. And then when you go back to, I think it was like the home screen, you had a set of images. Not the photographs, but the other one where you had the different sections of the app. I'm trying to remember which screen that was on.
Those are actually...
what was it?
I know what you're talking about.
I was like, well, where was this? Because you had the different icon sets. The point there it is. That's the one. So when we have your out of the box Glide components, and then you start bringing in either the iconography that's already available inside of Glide, or you can use image components and bring in images from other sources. Like you can do quite a bit. There's quite a bit of expression available within Glide, and you don't need to go in and do but any sort of coding. You're just using the out of box components.
And we wanted to do it without coding at all, because we didn't have a lot of time. So now if you see over here, this one screen is split into like 3 different components in 3 different places. So you have one component here, and like you have a custom container which is split into, with one container on the left and one on the right, and all of those 3 things are showing different information in one screen itself. So how powerful it can get.
I love this. Was there a second app that you wanted to share with us today?
Absolutely. So this is more like a beyond MVP app, which is more like an idea to an app very quickly, just to get it to investors and win competitions and stuff like that. The second one was in fact an app for an internal app. This app it's really interesting. So this is a company called iMatch. It's based out of Portugal, Lisbon, and Miguel is a great friend. Big shout out to him. They basically are innovation consultants, and it's a company called iMatch. It's in Portugal. Let's see English. Yeah. What they do is they go about finding customers and make like a lot of innovation internally using various different methodologies, such as one of them being the design sprint, and various different methodologies in order to innovate and find new things in the business. Now, with such a complex business, which is really people centric, they have like 30 odd consultants internally. What happens is every time a new customer comes in, they need to create a new proposal for them. Now, currently, with their process, with a complete manual process, they would take approximately 2 weeks to make a proposal. 2 weeks to just put together like a Google slide deck, which is a proposal which can go to the client. Now, when I met Miguel, the founder, he was like, this is something that I cannot bear with. I cannot spend 2 weeks to send a proposal to a client. It just loses so much time. So my intention is to break it down into at least 2 days. And that was the whole intention of the sprint. What we did is we put together like a process where how does a lead come in, what happens next, what questions do you ask, etc. But just on a high level, I'll explain. A client comes in, the consultant adds information about the client. We then decided the right questions to ask the client in order to have all the information to generate the proposal. So from there, we just decided what questions we want to ask. We put together like minutes of meeting, what is the category, what is the characteristic, etc. We put that together. Then based on that, what we decided was, as soon as these answers are put in, they already have a proposal bank, which is like hundreds of proposals they have created. With AI, what will happen is, with these components put in place, the app will automatically suggest the top 3 proposals that make sense. So it spits out top 3 based on an algorithm to define what is most relevant, which is like a point-based algorithm. If this matches 2 points, if this matches 1 point, add it all together, the highest points on top. Top 3, show the top 3 over here. Once that is done, he now moves to creating a new proposal. Over here, there are a few more questions that they have to answer, like questions for context, etc. As soon as all these questions are answered, this whole information is sent to ChatGPT through Glide's OpenAI integration. It's sent to ChatGPT. ChatGPT responds with a complete proposal, which is actually trained, because ChatGPT is already, in this scenario, we are already like sending a prompt which already has some information from the past proposals. Based on that, like a reference point is given. So ChatGPT responds with an ideal proposal. We capture all the information back on the app and then create a Google slide deck. So we have a Google slide template which gets replaced with certain components from the proposal, the output that ChatGPT has given, and then it generates a PDF, a Google slide for them, which basically reduces the job of putting some information together for the consultant. Now all they have to do is do a hygiene check, improve things, do like formatting, and send it to the client. Now, enough speech. I'll go into the app itself, because I know people are waiting to watch it.
My mind is a little. You have consistently blown my mind, but
Okay.
just this describing that flow, going through ChatGPT,
Yeah.
getting that, getting it into Google Slides. There's so much big stuff that you're doing here.
Yes. So
Just
basically, the first 2 days of my sprint were this.
Yeah.
Just starting it out, asking the right questions, putting together the whole, the scope of work, things that should be done in the future. We shifted them out and just put this together. After this, we went and started developing the Glide app. Over here, it's a very simple one-screen app where you can add a new prospect, go insert the client logo, the name of the client, the name of the project. As soon as you do that, that project is added over here. For example, we'll go with the latest one. Over here, they can go and edit client information, and then they can, as soon as they put in the information, top 3 relevant proposals are shown. Okay, so these are like 3 relevant proposals that I want to show based on the points, and you'll see the points over here. So this has math score 8. Somebody will have a math score of 7. So top 3 which match are shown. They can see this, and then they can go and create a new proposal. When they go and create a new proposal, these are the hygiene questions that are asked. All these questions, once as soon as they are solved, I will just swift through this. As soon as you submit these questions, here the magic starts happening. We'll now automatically generate the proposal. I'll hide the relevant ones, and version 6 is being created. So as soon as this goes in, there's a simple progress bar to show what's happening. You could see the progress move. And here what happens is, ChatGPT automatically responds to me with an architecture. So we might have to wait for some time, but I'll show you on the backend. On the backend, Glide has a beautiful integration with OpenAI. So what we have done is we have put together a prompt. Yes, here is a prompt. The prompt basically includes all the categories, all the things that we need to include over here. I'm not going to show you the prompt because that's client information, but the client was willing for me to show everything else. So yeah.
Good on you for checking with the client and protecting IP.
Yeah. So there's a prompt which is like a very long prompt put together, which has a lot of variables. So we're using a template component to replace all the variables and create a prompt. And then we are using the Glide's OpenAI integration. Yes, here. Which is complete the prompt and send the prompt to OpenAI and get the response. And what the OpenAI integration does is creates the whole structure for me. Now this structure is sent back to the app. Of course, it's on the app itself. And from there, this might take a while because this is a little longer. So I'll just open the previous version. All the information is gathered back. the phases are made, it's all put on the left side, and then it puts together a Google Slides document. This is a custom code. This is something that our engineers in the backend have done using Google App Scripts. So they have captured all this information and put it on the pitch deck. So the things that you see over here is it's a logo, it's a background information, it's the title, it's the date of the proposal, and it's all the steps. So over here, the introduction is auto-populated, understanding auto-populated, challenges, stuff like that. So there's a complete journey over here, which is auto-populated, which just the consultant now has to go and do a hygiene check. There are tables and stuff also auto-populated. So everything that would have taken probably, you can imagine how much time it would take to build this from scratch, is now done in probably minutes. He spends one day on this, he spends the second day on just doing the hygiene check, improving things that creativity requires him to do, and sends a proposal. So from 2 weeks to 2 days.
And so, sorry to interrupt there, but what I've noticed from this is that Glide has gotten you about 80-90% of the way there.
Correct.
Where you are pulling in a little bit of code is when you are taking this information that's already been provided and effectively doing an automated copy and paste. We're going to take this information that exists in the app that we've already generated through Glide, and we're going to put it into Google Slides. But you're doing that with an app script versus having someone sitting there going copy paste into all of the
places. Exactly. It's like a template where it's just replacing certain things. That's all.
That's great. That's amazing. This is a fantastic example too of how do you use Glide as an interface to AI and Chat GPT for really like real world scenario.
This is the team, and we are sitting in their office and doing these things. So yeah, this was probably 4th day or so. But the best part about this is something so complex, which feels so complex, could be done in 5 days, just 5 days. In fact, my build time on Glide was probably 2 to 3 days. That's all. So like, such a big problem can be solved with so much simplicity.
My goodness. 5 days, so a 5-day build, 2 days of actually doing the app work. You did the upfront, mapping things out, and then some of the work with slides, but only 2 days in the builder, in the Glide builder.
And this is a fantastic family of the co-founders. Both of them took me out for lunch one day in Lisbon, and then they took me around the city. So my whole build was worth it. So yes,
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right, we have a few questions here in the chat.
I'll stop presenting.
Shall we? Let's bring up a couple of these. So first one, I love this one from Manal. What made you jump from making cars to making apps? It's quite the leap.
That's a great question. I have been a mechanical engineer, so I was always into making cars. But this is like, I think COVID propagated this, because I was sitting at home. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for me to go ahead and build any mechanical stuff. But the best part was my mechanical brain, which is very logical, which is always like process oriented, step by step, that put together with something powerful as Glide, which doesn't need you to code things. It just needs you to use your logic to build certain things. It really fulfilled my my skill set. So once it started, it's addictive. Once you start building apps, you can't stop. So yeah, eventually, maybe sometime in life, I'll start building cars again. But for now, I'm with apps. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. This one from Darren. So as you've been going through this process with Baarah, there's a bit of, I'm assuming, a little bit of a pitch process as well. So both in the context of that, in the broader context of modernizing processes, what approach do you recommend when pitching to companies?
This is something that I'm still trying to figure out, and I'm still trying to crack. So with my limited experience, I'll answer this. The approach I strongly recommend is like a very, very personalized approach. Whenever you're trying to speak to somebody, you really need to understand what will make sense to them. How will you add value to them? Because they don't really know you. They don't know what is Baarah. They don't know what is Glide. Nobody cares if you're a Glide premium expert till the time they meet you. Now, before you do any of those things, if you want to approach them, all you need to do is solve a problem for them, and identify what will make sense to them from a business point of view, what will give them return on investment. That's all. If you identify that, they will give you time to speak to them, and then you can take it further.
That's a great answer. Great answer. And kind of related to that from Cassandra, asking about pricing. So you gave us two really good examples of apps that you built on for Project Baarah and what you're doing. Very different types of apps,
Yes.
very different levels of complexity in different ways. How do you factor that in when you're pricing client work?
That's again the way we do project architecture and the initial scoping. That's the place where we really identify how much effort, time effort from our team, how much skill. Like certain things are really high skill but do not require a lot of effort, but because that person has spent so many years to acquire that skill. Now if we are using that high value skill, we factor that in. We factor the complexity of communicating with the client as well, because in some places we really have to identify if it's easy to communicate with the client or not. And then it's also relations. So keeping all these factors in mind, put together, we decide the pricing. But it's always like the 80% of the thing that defines the pricing is the scope of work, is what exactly we are trying to build and how much of an impact it would create for the client. So if it's high impact for them, we would also charge a high value.
Love that. And if folks are interested, for experts, builders, folks watching, if you look at value-based pricing, kind of what you're talking about there, Manan, like versus time and materials. When you start doing client work, time and materials is usually an easy way to figure out some pricing, like what's your cost, add a margin, and go that way. But when you start pricing based on the value you make for your clients, it's much more lucrative and much more impactful, especially when you're dealing with bigger projects.
It's true, and it's a win-win, right? Because even the client is getting the output, even you are getting the output, and it's actually being paid for your skill, the skill that you have spent so much time to develop. So nobody pays you for that. Like so that's how you monetize.
Yeah. We have time for just a couple more questions here. This is what happens. People, you get the icebreaker going with a couple questions, and people start piling on. All right. From Natish, your first few apps that you built with Glide, how did those come about? How did you get started?
Yeah, here I'm going to give a bigger shout out to Glide itself, because my first few apps actually came through the Glide community. I didn't really know back then that I can make money out of this. I was just showcasing this to this really strong, powerful community that we have at Glide. And when I was showcasing, there would be people coming and asking questions. And when you solve more questions, they are like, okay, I want to hire you to build something. So that's how it started. So the freelancing journey back then didn't really know what makes sense, how to charge, how to price. All of these things, all the questions that I see are also over a period of time you learn and you identify. But yes, Glide and showing my work as much as possible gave me more work.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout out there for the community, and I'll mention that again towards the end here. But showing what you're building, and even jumping into the community, taking what you do know, and even if you don't know a ton, take what you do know and help others. It's a great way to boost your own visibility. Like Manan, I've seen you do it. There are other experts in the community who do the same. Just a really good way to pay it forward and boost your own visibility as a Glide expert. Last, I'm going to pull one more question here because it's clearly a big part of how you do your work. Design sprints. How are you pulling those into Glide apps? Glide app builds. Sorry.
Now over here, I'll actually reference one more thing. The more we worked on all the projects that we have been working on so far, the more we started realizing that garbage in is garbage out. Like if you start something on a bad note without really going deep, you will end up producing something that doesn't make sense, neither for you or for the client. So that's when we really identified that the problem is not the build, the problem is not in the development, because the development is actually just based on what you have spoken about. The actual problem is in the front, is where you realize what needs to be solved, and from there you make it further. So the way we use design sprints, now the best part about design sprints is you really focus. Everybody's focused, they're leaving everything aside and they're just talking about the problem, that one problem that you want to solve. and you're talking about it through various different angles. All the people involved have a different role to play, so they are bringing in various approaches. And it's also like, if you're talking about like a 5-day design sprint, if you spend those 5 days very well, you don't really need to spend time at all after that. Only executors need to spend time. The creative work is done in those 5 days. So rather than spending time in troubleshooting and solving problems later, you do this upfront, and everything else becomes smoother. That's how we leverage design sprints. It just brings the whole team together, and everybody knows what we are aiming to achieve.
So it's almost like you're laying the blueprint for what is the thing that we're going to build. We're not going to figure it out as we're building. Figure it out first, then build, and then refine.
But one tip over there: figure out a very small thing first. Like, do one thing at a time. Don't try to figure out the whole world in the beginning.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's very easy once you start building to be like, oh, well, what if we did this instead? And to just end up down the rabbit hole of, spending way too much time on things that may not matter. That's a really good call out. All right. Well, this has been an amazing session. Manan, thank you so much for joining us today. We've covered so much here. It's been great. And thank you to everybody on the stream for joining us. This has been one of the most popular builds that we've done so far. Manan, for yourself, Project Baarah, where can people find you and keep up with you? What's the best place to go?
So firstly, the best place is LinkedIn, because right now we are live on LinkedIn. We are promoting things on LinkedIn, but eventually we'll be on YouTube as well. And in the meantime, if I'm traveling across Europe, if there are people who are interested to meet, to work with, I would be like, my DMs are open.
Right, and I'm going to throw on a little banner here. If you want to find Manan on LinkedIn, here's where you go. LinkedIn.com/n/Manan Mehta. And just search for Manan. You'll find him. and related to that, Manan was talking about the community. If you're interested in seeing more events like this, following along, joining discussions, getting help, finding inspiration, the community is the best place to go. Head over to community.glideapps.com. You'll find us over there. Tons of smart people sharing stuff all about Glide. And with that, we're out. Thanks, Manan. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Until then,
you guys.
have a good one.